Hey, Gary, you're up first, right?
On the nominating?
Hold on, yeah. Let me just read. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units. It's now being called to order. Today's in-person meeting is also being held via video conference with the proceedings live streamed from the Port Authority website. Earlier today, the Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management and the Nominating Committee met in executive. The reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The Commissioners also met in executive session earlier today to discuss matters related to the security or public safety, matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property where disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interests, matters related to personnel procedures, and to discuss and act upon matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals. Today's meeting is the agency's 2025 annual meeting. As there is no board meeting in January, our next meeting is going to be February 13th. Under the bylaws, officers are elected to the annual meeting. As such, the nominating committee met in executive prior to this meeting in connection with the election of officers. Commissioner LaBarbera, as the chair of the nominating committee, may we have your report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the bylaws of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and each of the three subsidiary corporations, the Port Authority Trans-Hudson Corporation, Newark Legal and Communications Center, Urban Renewal Corporation, the New York and New Jersey Railroad Corporation. Nominating committees met in executive session prior to today's meeting in connection with the annual election of officers. On behalf of the nominating committee, I desire to report that at the meetings held earlier today, and in accordance with relevant bylaws, the committees by unanimous action, and I'd like to underline unanimous, submit the nomination of Kevin O'Toole for the election to the office of chairman, Jeffrey H. Linford to the office of vice chairman, and Richard Cotton for the election of executive director of the Port Authority and president of each of the three subsidiary corporations. And once again, by unanimous action, and I'd like to underscore unanimous, the committee also submits the following nominations as officers of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey: James E. McCoy as secretary, Amy H. Fisher as general counsel, Elizabeth M. McCarthy as chief financial officer, and Daniel G. McCarron as controller, and Shireen N. Keller as treasurer. Do any nominating committee members wish to make a statement concerning this proposal? Hearing none, we offer you our deepest and most heartfelt congratulations. I will now turn over the meeting back to you, Mr. Chairman. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner LaBarbera. So I think by virtue of you serving, you are the longest-serving commissioner. You've taken over Ray Pacino's spot. Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Need a motion on the nominations, please. Those that were read by Commissioner LaBarbera.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Request a roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The item's been approved. The slate's been approved. Let me just say for a moment, 7.5 years ago, when we arrived here, who knew how, where, and what? Jeff, as my partner, and Rick as my partner in this board. It's changed a little bit over the last few years. But there's one thing that holds us all together is that we have fought very hard to make sure that New York and New Jersey work together to make sure that the interests of the Port Authority are put first and foremost, and the politics were put in the back seat. I will tell you, it is humbling to sit here, gratifying but humbling to sit as on this board, and it's a magnificent board, as you know, but to have the faith and the confidence, the friendship that's been afforded to me by this unanimous vote, Gary. I know you underscored and emphasized unanimous, because over the last 7.5 years, we have been a unanimous board. We have debated, we have gone back and forth, we have had some intense conversations, but at the end of the day, and I don't think anybody would have predicted this 7.5 years ago, every vote that we have had has been unanimous. every single vote. That's never happened in the history of the Port Authority during this period of time. And I want to say to each of the members, my fellow board members, I sent you a personal note this week to let you know how much I appreciate your friendship, your trust, your confidence. And to my partner, Jeff, I couldn't have, and I mean this, Jeff, a better partner. You were extraordinary, you're an extraordinary leader. I lean on you for too many things, a thesaurus one, and also talk about some of your financial numbers, because nobody does it better than you. But and to Rick, Rick, honestly, you are the hardest working individual in this business of ours. And I've been doing this marks my 40th year in public service, 40th. And Rick, I've come across all types, and I say this, you are the most dynamic, the hardest working, the most ethical, the most unbelievable public servant I've ever worked with at any level. And I thank you for your friendship and your partnership, and looking forward to having a very dynamic 2025.
Thank you very much.
Vice Chair.
Well, on behalf of all your colleagues on the board, right back at you, but you're like a fine wine, and you're getting better every year.
Fine wine.
Okay, so thank you on behalf of all of us once again. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to be heard? All righty. Now we're going to move ahead, and we're going to a moment of very quiet resolution. We have another individual, Port Authority family member, who passed away on the job, Hugh E.M. Zhu. He was a program director for the Aviation and Planning Division who worked for 31 years at the Port Authority. You talk to his family, his friends, they just think the world of him, his coworkers. If I can ask everyone just to stand for a moment of silence for Hugh. Thank you. And before we get into the business of the day, we have some folks here that I'm glad they're here. April of last year, we heard about an individual who took a bus ride from, I think it was Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, came to the bus terminal, came off the bus terminal, and for some random reason just had a knife attack on an individual from New Jersey who was waiting for his coworker. I think he was reading a book, if I'm not mistaken, waiting for his coworker, which is a habit he did every day. And it was just an incredible, vicious attack. Within a short amount of time, we're going to hear from our deputy superintendent. 4 of the officers who are here today arrived in the scene and took the appropriate action to make sure that the resident, the commuter, Mr. Salvatore, was not killed on the scene. It's not an exaggeration to say it could have easily happened. So first of all, is the deputy superintendent here? Why don't you just talk about the actions of these 4 brave men before we hear from Mr. Salvatore?
Absolutely, sir. So first, again, to commend the officers on the job well done due to the proper training they received throughout the Port Authority Police Academy. It definitely came to their benefit on this date. Brief narrative of the incident on that date. On April 4th, 2024, at approximately 5:50 a.m., without provocation, Michael McCluskey assaulted Daniel Salvatore with a 3-inch knife. Police officers Eugenius and Peterson heard the victim scream for help and responded to the active assault. Officer Eugenius and Peterson confronted the assailant at gunpoint and quickly subdued the suspect. Additionally, officers Diaz and Gashi responded and administered life-saving aid to the victim. They were able to control the loss of blood and prevent the victim from going into shock. Mr. Salvatore suffered 8 stab wounds to the neck, chest, left arm, and hand. Mr. Salvatore was transported to Bellevue Hospital, where he was able to fully recover from his life-threatening wounds. The suspect that day, Mr. Michael McCluskey, was charged with attempted murder, assault in the 1st degree, assault in the 2nd degree, criminal possession of a weapon in the 4th degree. Aided by testimony, CCTV, and body-worn camera evidence, the suspect was indicted by the Manhattan Grand Jury on October 17th. The suspect entered into a plea agreement, pleading to attempted murder in the 2nd degree in exchange for 13 years of a prison sentence and 5 years of post-release supervision. that day, that event, the actions that the officers took on that day to save Danny, as he said, I could call him, was extraordinary. We wanted to thank our officers and also, sir, have Mr. Salvador come up and show our appreciation for his bravery on that date. I had the opportunity to speak to him outside, and he said on that date he wasn't the brave one. I explained to him that I saw the body-worn camera on that date, and he absolutely was one of our brave individuals on that date.
Deputy Superintendent, why don't you introduce the patrolman by name, if you don't mind? And we can
Absolutely,
recognize them.
sir. I'll have the officers stand up, and at this time, be ready to present it. Officer Eugenius. Officer Diaz. Officer Gashi.
Sir.
Officer Peterson. Sir. All 4 officers.
Job well done.
Sir, and if it's okay, we would like to present a flag flown over the World Trade Center flag to Mr. Salvador.
Please.
Danny, for that day.
Daniel, front and center. So while Daniel's coming up there, we went out and met, Superintendent and I, a few others, actually went to Daniel's home soon after the attack. And I will tell you, Daniel, as I told you before, you had this calmness about you, this presence about you. I know you say it's your faith. It is amazing how you have just, without hate or without anger, and there's just a peace about you. You're just a wonderful human being. And when you sent me the email and you wanted to commend the officers, I said, you got to get in here. You got to just come and feel the love that these folks have for you, and we have to commend these 4 officers who did their job. So, Daniel, there's a nice flag, and Deputy Superintendent, why don't you present the flag to him?
At this time, I would like to present to you a flag flown over the World Trade Center. This flag represents the bravest among us as the Port Authority Police Department, and also you on that day, sir. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Dan. Mike is yours, my friend.
Okay. I didn't know I have to say anything, but I do have faith in Jesus Christ, and I'm very grateful to him for saving me that day. I'm also grateful for the efficiency and professionalism of the Port Authority Police Department, and very grateful for these guys here. They probably saved my life. I'm sure many times during the day as they're on patrol, it's probably a thankless job. And I can probably speak for many that we're very glad that you're around, you're visible, your physical presence is appreciated, and I, for one, am very grateful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. Did your neighbor get the picture? Did he get a picture? Yeah. You got it? Good. Awesome. Thank you for coming. Officers, again, thank you very much. Daniel, thank you for coming in, and don't be a stranger. Appreciate it. At this time, we're going to hear from our Executive Director to provide his monthly report. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my report for December, end of 2024, and Mr. Chairman, I'm going to devote my report to reciting a few of the achievements and accomplishments that took place during 2024 at the Port Authority. You'll hear echoes of it as our CFO later presents the budget, but I thought it important to take the time to talk to the commissioners and to the public about the very productive and positive 2024 that the Port Authority experienced. As a first order of business, however, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the employees across the agency that have powered the agency's 2024 accomplishments. It is the employees of the agency who allow us to keep the region moving. I'd also like to express gratitude to the leaders of the 23 unions, which represent 2/3 of our workforce and have worked with the agency representing their members throughout the year. And I would also like to offer an overall thank you, particularly in light of the award ceremony that just took place, to the leadership and the officers of the Port Authority Police Department for their hard work, dedication, and bravery every day of the year. Turning to our airports, 2024 was an outstanding year. Throughout the year, LaGuardia and Terminal A at Newark Liberty continued to receive accolades. In March, LaGuardia was voted the best airport in the United States in its size by the leading passenger survey organization. This rating was directly based on the opinions of thousands of passengers, and it was an unaccustomed place for LaGuardia to be at the head of the list instead of the end. In October, the experts weighed in. LaGuardia was named the best airport in the United States by Forbes Travel Guide based on votes from a 5,000-person panel that Forbes had selected of travel experts and frequent flyers. Shifting to Newark Liberty, Newark Liberty's Terminal A had an equally impressive set of recognitions in the course of 2024. Terminal A in the first quarter was named the best new airport terminal in the world by the leading airport rating organization, Skytrax. And in addition, I want to recall to the board that Terminal A received Skytrax's coveted 5-star rating. Terminal A joins LaGuardia Terminal B as 2 out of the 3 U.S. airports to receive a 5-star rating. All proof that the Port Authority as a whole is moving our facilities from worst to first and earning the label world class. Continuing with Newark Liberty, this year, the board awarded a nearly $1.2 billion construction contract to build the guideway for the new Newark AirTrain and authorized the rebuild of the portion of the Northeast Corridor NEC rail station to make it accessible to the local community. And just last month, we issued the Newark Airport Vision Plan, laying out a comprehensive plan to completely transform Newark Airport. In 2024, the $19 billion JFK transformation raced ahead with buildings taking shape. The structural steel at New Terminal 1 and Terminal 6 have been completed, with glass curtain walls being put in place on the buildings everywhere you turn. We also broke ground on a to-be vastly improved new roadway network. It's important to emphasize that the agency is carrying out the JFK construction progress during not only peak travel season, but peak construction. This is a remarkable accomplishment that requires cutting-edge traffic management and extraordinary effort on the part of the airport staff, and a big tip of the hat not only to the airport staff at JFK, but to all our partners at JFK, and a big thank you to the PAPD, which a team that is carrying out the construction process while the airport is operating in magnificent fashion. Our airports in 2025 will have handled a record 144 million air travelers, more than 4 million greater than last year. That is an extraordinary increase, an extraordinary feat, and a huge tribute to the 70,000 workers of a multitude of employers at our airports, including obviously Port Authority staff and employees at both public and private organizations who work at the airport. The Port Authority Midtown Bus Terminal Replacement Project. Truly an extraordinary year in the life of that project. We have been working on that project for a multitude of years. I won't use a number. But the Midtown Bus Terminal Replacement Project cleared the federal and local permitting and approval process, bringing to a conclusion this years-long permitting effort across the entire agency to ready this project to break ground. In the local permitting process, the project has now cleared every single hurdle. It culminated with the unanimous approval in the Euler process of the project by the New York City Council and the conclusion of the mayoral review process. We have been working with the community boards, with all 5 elected officials who represent the surrounding community, and we have received support across the board. And I will say this is one of the most unusual major infrastructure projects in the middle of a built-up urban setting where the community totally 100% supports the project as opposed to adopting the not in my backyard attitude. With respect to the federal environmental review process by the Federal Transit Administration, the project reached that final approval with the issue of the record of decision just last Wednesday, an enormous milestone. Securing these approvals represent the key foundation as we look forward. The Port Authority is now able to take concrete steps toward awarding early construction projects and breaking ground on the first phase of the project in early 2025. And I might also note that within moments of the federal approval being received, the first early works contracts were actually formally awarded by the agency. At the World Trade Center, 2024 was a year of vibrancy. In its first full season of programming, the Perlman Performing Arts Center received rave reviews, fulfilling its promise to bring life and creative energy to the campus. A wide variety of activations continue to energize Lower Manhattan with a diverse and full calendar of events. At PATH, in 2024, the popular Tap and Go fare system was extended to all stations, with more than half of all turnstiles in the system now tap-enabled. It also increased its capacity with all 9-car trains now operating on the Newark to World Trade Center line. In April, the Path Forward program was announced, which is a comprehensive $430 million program to improve resiliency and reliability. At the seaport, the port's pattern of strong cargo performance continued in 2024 as the seaport maintained its position as the second busiest in the nation. The Port of New York and New Jersey, through the end of 2024, forecast cargo levels to exceed 2019 volumes by 14%. While the seaport is below the once-in-a-generation cargo levels experienced during the 2 COVID years, the seaport is handling its heaviest volumes of cargo in its history without congestion. And when 2 2024 events, the Baltimore Key Bridge collapse and the ILA strike, disrupted operations, the seaport truly stepped up. It absorbed cargo from Baltimore virtually immediately to keep supply lines flowing. During the ILA strike, the Port Authority staff worked effectively with the PAPD to maintain safety during labor demonstrations and uphold the workers' right to free speech. And when a tentative ILA labor agreement was reached, the Port quickly cleared a backlog of ships to maintain the flow of cargo. And again, a word about safety and security. Paramount to all that we do is safety and security. The PAPD is the backbone of our safety and security commitments to the traveling public. I want to take note that in 2024, the PAPD and our security department performed with great effectiveness in managing security at all our facilities. As I've noted, the PAT was also key to our successful management of traffic on roadways during the high level of construction at JFK. Sustainability. In the age of climate change, this is truly a moral obligation. In regard to our sustainability agenda, the Port Authority made huge strides in 2024. We are fully on track to achieve our 2025 greenhouse gas reduction goal. In addition, the agency is on the verge of having 50% of our light-duty vehicles electrified. There are now nearly 2,000 pieces of electric ground handling equipment in use at the airports, and 340 EV chargers have been installed across our airports, and we continue to install those to service all vehicles at the airport. Major steps forward were taken on our solar agenda. This year, the PA commenced construction on 2 new critical solar projects at the new JFK, a solar array at New Terminal 1 that will be the largest in the city of New York, and a 12-megawatt solar carport project with battery storage in the long-term parking lot, which is the largest such project in New York State. Combined, these solar projects will generate 24 megawatts of energy when complete, adding to 8 megawatts already operational across our facilities. In addition, the Port Authority is now completing the very exciting Newark Airport Building 1 decarbonization project, which will be a template for the decarbonization of all agency buildings. Finally, a word on our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. When it comes to our DE&I agenda, the Port Authority's MWBE program in 2024 hit an extraordinary milestone. The Port Authority's airport projects have now awarded more than $5 billion in minority and women-owned businesses. And this year, JFK broke the previous record for a single project and reached $2.7 billion in contracts awarded to MWBE firms. This is not only unprecedented, I believe it is the largest such contract achievement in projects any place in the country. It is a direct result of years of outreach, capacity building, and work with the minority contract community, which has occurred with intensity in 2024. Monthly certification workshops, readiness boot camps to make sure that small businesses will be trained in order to operate within the airport environment. An institute of concessions to train would-be bidders for concessions as to how to do it. Networking events with prime contractors to identify opportunities, pre-qualification assistance, and much more. In addition, this year the agency focused on work with our Office of Second Chance Employment, which places formerly incarcerated individuals into jobs across the agency. This year, 60 individuals were hired through that program, and we expect to increase that number in future years. With respect to technology innovation, this is a necessary focus and a continued and intense focus, and that was exhibited in 2024. We have formed our Innovation Hub in 2022. This year, it greenlit 20 individual projects, an increase of 30% over 2023, and covering initiatives that range from an electronic airplane tug, which enables airplanes to be towed with using electricity rather than jet fuel to the end of the runways, and the use of artificial intelligence in a variety of situations at the agency. We are proud to keep pushing the envelope on cutting-edge technology. It's an incomplete list of accomplishments, but Mr. Chairman, 2024 has been quite a year. Port Authority has much to be proud of, and we look forward to building on this progress in 2025.
It sounds like more than 1 year packed in there, Rick. It sounds like a decade. Extraordinary. I mean, to hear it all to music at one time is just, it really is extraordinary. And, as we reflect, this time of the year about those things that are important, you have that list. I'm just thinking about our employees, and they make this thing happen. The 8,000 employees, Rick, your senior staff that, you work very closely with. Port Authority is the most extraordinary organization that I've ever seen. And these employees separate themselves from any other segment of private sector or public sector employees that I've worked with. Extraordinary, Rick. So you're leading the charge into 2025. And as much as we've done stuff, we're not one that just kind of sit on our laurels. We're just forging ahead. And I really think in 2025, 2026 is the best is yet to come. When JFK is finished, bus terminal is going to be well on its way. The ports are going to be totally redone, and all of the improvements we have at the airports. Terminal B is going to be, obviously beyond the planning stage in 2025. It is like breathtaking, Rick. It is breathtaking. So I appreciate that partial list of the accomplishments, and move on to 2025. Okay, moving ahead, at our November board meeting, The board authorized a public comment period and a series of public hearings to solicit comments from the public on proposed changes to the agency's tolls, fares, and fees. The public comment period has closed, and as stated in November, we would come back in December to take action on these matters. Our next order of business is to hear from our CFO, Libby McCarthy, who will discuss proposed changes to the tolls, fares, and fees, and they were proposed changes that were on the Port Authority website on November 14th for public comment. In addition, we've had 4 public hearings, which were held in various locations and staffed by our staff, and as well as 1 commissioner from New York and 1 commissioner from New Jersey at each of those 4. The period has closed out, and now we're going to hear from Libby, an overview of what occurred at those meetings, an overview of the comments, and your recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, Commissioners. So I'm just going to start real quickly with, again, framing what the proposals were, and then we'll talk about the comments. As we reported to you, and we've reported multiple times, the pandemic did create a $3 billion revenue shortfall for the Port Authority over a 24-month period. And recovery has been further from that shortfall. The recovery has been further complicated by the inflationary pressures that have exceeded all pre-pandemic projections, thereby raising our cost of operations, construction, raw materials, and labor. So the proposed budget that we put together included some limited toll adjustments at the agency's bridges and tunnels that are necessary to address these negative impacts of COVID-19 on our revenues and the continuing inflationary pressures on our costs, as well as for us to be able to continue to invest in the ambitious capital agenda for the agency's tunnel, bridge, terminal, and path facilities as laid out in the 2017 through 2026 capital plan. So just again, a brief summary of the proposed changes. First, we were looking at changes that would be related to our tolls at our bridges and tunnels, which covers the George Washington Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, the Holland Tunnel, the Goethals Bridge, and the Outer Bridge Crossing and Bayonne Bridge. The first proposal was an adjustment of 25 cents to the auto, motorcycle, and truck tolls that's above the annual automatic inflation adjustment. This adjustment would be effective on January 5th of 2025. The proposal also recommends that the board authorize a 25-cent increases above the annual automatic inflation-based toll adjustments for autos, motorcycles, and trucks in each of the next 3 years. These adjustments preserve the lower rates through Easy Pass and other discounts, including the Staten Island Bridges program. Another proposal would be to eliminate an off-peak truck volume discount program that affects approximately 0.4% of truck accounts. To give drivers time to plan for this, the change would not be effective until July 6th of 2025. Then we had a series of proposals, 2 proposals, that were designed to incentivize the enrollment in our Easy Pass program and encourage the proper use of the Easy Pass transponders, thereby getting more people to utilize the advantage of the lower Easy Pass rates. These adjustments would affect only 10 to 15% of our drivers. The first proposal was to incentivize drivers to enroll in Easy Pass and take advantage of that lower rate by increasing the Easy Pass discount. The proposal would increase the toll by mail rate to a level that is consistent with the MTA two-way rate on its bridges. Again, in order to give people time to adapt for this and enroll in Easy Pass, we are proposing that we delay the implementation date to July 6, 2025, while we engage in an intensive communications plan to urge drivers to enroll in Easy Pass and take advantage of the lower rates. The second proposal is to incentivize drivers that are currently enrolled in Easy Pass to actually use their transponders correctly, by ensuring the proper positioning of those transponders in their vehicles. The proposal would introduce a new mid-tier rate for those users who are currently enrolled but don't use it correctly in order to compensate for the incremental cost to the Port Authority of processing those transactions. Once again, we are proposing that change be delayed until January 6, 2025, so that we can engage, while we engage in that intense communications plan to urge drivers to properly display their EasyPass transponders and get the lower rate. It's an important goal for us to increase the use of EasyPass, as it will significantly improve the efficiency of toll collections. Finally, we had a proposed reduction of a proposed new program for the path riders, which would be a reduced fare program for path riders with qualifying disabilities. The new program would work similarly to the senior reduced fare program that PATH currently has, giving riders with qualified disabilities a reduced fare of 50% of the then single ride fare for PATH. Once the TAP system is fully implemented, which we anticipate to be this summer, customers with qualifying disabilities will be invited to enroll in the program and link it to their unique Tap and Go payment account. So that's a summary of the proposals. You talked about the program we undertook, Chairman. So in addition, I'm just going to then summarize in total the comments that we received at those 4 public hearings, as well as through the mail. So we received 29 comments regarding the proposed packages for tolls and fare adjustments, which included 11 comments from those public hearings. Relating to the proposed changes to the bridge and tunnel tolls, 13 comments opposed the proposed adjustments for the tunnel and bridge tolls, broadly citing the higher cost of living in the region, the level of existing tolls, and the impacts of these changes on low-income individuals. But as I previously mentioned, these proposed adjustments are necessary for us to continue our ambitious programs. Regarding the PATH fare discount, we received 14 comments that were made in support of the reduced fare program for riders with qualified disabilities. After consideration of these comments, we are recommending that the board adopt the proposed changes to tolls and the reduced PATH fares program for riders with qualifying disabilities as we presented them to you in November, and I just summarized, and that's also as detailed on our website. The proposed package of changes is estimated to generate approximately $150 million in incremental revenues once it's fully implemented, that will allow us to continue our investment in the interstate transportation network. And with that, Chairman, I'm happy to take any questions.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Great. Okay, we're going to defer voting on this item until after the public has spoken. Next order of business, we're going to hear from Libby on the 2025 budget. This budget was posted on the Port Authority website throughout today for public comment. Our CFO will provide an overview of the nature of the comments received and make a recommendation, and we'll defer voting until after we hear from the public. Libby?
Yes, again, thank you, Chairman. So I'm going to, again, just summarize sort of how we developed the budget, some of the key points of the budget, and then a summary of the comments that we received. So just as a backdrop, Rick, in his report, talked to you about a lot of the things that we accomplished in 2024. We're fully anticipating to continue that trajectory into 2025, so this budget takes that into consideration. So we've talked again about our transformational investment in our infrastructure over the last several years. This is just a summary of that capital plan that we've been delivering on and that Rick talked about. We've been progressing through that, and it is, once again, as Rick talked about, truly transformational. So I think key highlights as we look into the 2025 portions of this $37 billion program, will be the start of construction on the Midtown Bus Terminal Replacement Program, the continuation and completion of the Path Forward plan and the investments in the PATH system in our Path Forward program, the continued investment in the airports, including the work at JFK on the redevelopment, the replacement of the AirTrain at Newark, and the Newark Vision Plan, and then also investment in our ports through our Port Street Corridor program, et cetera. So the frame things for you, what's going on at the facilities. 25, we expect to be record years across the board, or improvements in activities. At the airports, we're expecting 150 million passengers would be a new record. And the new and larger facilities that we've been, the award-winning facilities, the cost of those and the operations of those are in our program. Also, that full-scale construction that we have ongoing does require some operational costs to help us make sure that passengers are able to access the facilities uninterrupted. Tunnels and bridges, 122 million vehicles, 4%, about slight growth from 2024, but a 4% increase in truck volumes. And we've been rolling out a new customer service center for our customers, and then, of course, have completed the all-electronic tolling system across the board, and I mentioned we'll start that construction at the bus terminal. PATH, we're expecting 59 million customers in 2025. That's a new high since 2019. We have, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, we have increased service levels and capacity at PATH in the last 4 months, and so the 25 budget takes into consideration the full year impact of that. And we will be fully implementing our tap-and-go fare payment system. At the ports, we're expecting throughput of 8.5 million TEUs, which will be a new high since our COVID-related peaks in 2022. And then we have some substantial investment in zero-emission equipment and infrastructure in that year. And at the World Trade Center, we're expecting about 60 million people on the campus in 2025. And the campus continues to be a vital component of the Lower Manhattan vibrancy. So this is the proposed budget, $9.4 billion. You can see here we have sources that are balanced with the uses. This budget was put together in a way that was making sure that we could balance those resources and allocate it in a way that allows us to execute on our ambitious operating agenda and advance our capital program. So you can see here the main components on the uses side, $4.1 billion in operating expenses, $3.6 billion in capital spending, and then we have debt service and deferred spending of approximately $1.7 billion. I'm going to start on the sources side just to give you a little insight into the primary sources here being the $7.1 billion in revenues that are shown. So as you can see here, this is a roll-up of the sources of our revenue that reflects about a 6% increase from our 2024 operating revenue. The big drivers here being that aviation revenues are growing at about $250 million or 7% versus the 24 budget. That's based on activity-based rentals, higher recoverable costs, both as a result of a renegotiated flight fee agreement, and as well as higher costs that are recoverable. And then, of course, we have activity-driven revenues at the airports and our AirTrain fares and access fees. TB&T, $113 million or 5.6% increase over the 2024 levels. That's driven by the combination of the automatic inflation-based toll adjustment as well as the proposed toll adjustments we just walked through, and the growth, particularly in the trucks across the board. And then the path fares are up, projected to be up 17 million or almost 12%. And that's a result of this year, 2025, we are triggering the automatic inflation-based fare increase. That's because the CPI, when measured from September of 2021 to September of 2024, exceeded $3, and we are putting that 25-cent increase in pursuant to a board action in 2019. We also have ongoing ridership recovery, which is reflected in these numbers, and then we've reflected as well the potential impact of the reduced fare program. Moving on to the uses side of the equation, what this slide shows you is sort of how are we allocating all of those sources into some of our key drivers and key priorities. Over $1 billion to safety, security, and cybersecurity. Over $3.6 billion to our capital program to continue to deliver on that ambitious program. $2.1 billion for the operation and maintenance of our assets, focused on those. Our operational excellence and best-in-class customer experience standards, which have helped deliver the awards that Rick is talking about as well. Sustainability and resilience, $91 million to advance our net zero emissions future, in addition to over $121 million for severe storm and climate change resilience programs. And then finally, we have about $250 million to invest in technologies, including supporting that innovation hub that Rick talked about. So here is a slide that shows the components of the proposed operating expense budget, $4.1 billion. It's a $205 million overall increase that reflects two components. One, inflationary escalations of 2.7%, and then additional spending in 3 or 4 key priority areas where we needed to invest more than above inflation. First, an additional $32 million in our safety and security programs to ensure the safety and security of the traveling public, and our fortifying our cybersecurity defenses as we are looking at the changing threat environment. Operating our new and larger facilities, as I mentioned, does require incremental operating expenses for the larger footprints, et cetera. So that is captured in these numbers, $21 million. We do have that ambitious capital program does require us to mitigate construction traffic congestion impacts, and we have money set aside here for that. That's $15 million. And then finally, there's just some growth that's non-discretionary or revenue-driven, the biggest one here being our city rent is tied to our revenue, so as our revenue goes up, that city rent does as well. So in total, the proposed budget is the $205 million increase, or 5.3% when you add those two components together. The proposed capital spending budget, as I mentioned, it's $3.6 billion. That is a 27 or close to $750 million increase over our projected or estimated 24 spending. So that's you can see that's an important thing because we'll be delivering on that program. This is reflecting the substantial investment. You can see aviation has the largest component of this. It's the JFK redevelopment, continuing to advance our part of the redevelopment of that airport, being the roadway networks and supporting infrastructure and ground transportation center. We have the new air train at Newark, which will be in full-blown construction in 2025. Initial construction of the first phase of the new Midtown bus terminal is in that TB&T number. That will include the first phase of the program, which includes the deck overs of the Dyer ramps, as well as starting construction on the new staging and storage facility and ramps that'll serve as the temporary terminal while the new terminal is being developed in the future. The Path Forward program, we have investments there. In the Path program, you can see, and then we have continued construction on the Port Street Corridor Improvement Program in the port numbers. The debt service budget is $1.9 billion. That's about a 1% increase. We are assuming in 2025 we'll be issuing $900 million of new money bonds to support the capital program. Drawing down, we're in application for a TIFIA loan. We'd be drawing down on that. And then we also be using our short-term borrowing program for that. So now to the public comments, Chairman. Following the presentation, we have been soliciting and receiving comments across the board, both at the hearings for the tolls and fare increases, but also for that related to the budget. So we received a total of comments from a total of 1,119 individuals. They submitted comments regarding the proposed budget. Multiple of those individuals commented on several topics. So if you add all of the comments together, it's roughly 2,400 comments. And we've received all of those. We've communicated them to you. You received a memo on Monday with comments through that date and an update today, earlier today, on the comments we received through 5 o'clock last night. So let me drill down a little bit into those comments. A little over 1,000 comments were requests for the consideration of extending the PATH service, particularly on nights and weekends. We have reviewed those comments. We are aware of the increased ridership, recovery of weekend ridership to pre-pandemic levels. And as a result of that, as I mentioned, we've taken in the last 4 months several steps toward increasing capacity on the PATH system. The 2025 budget funds those through the full year of 2025. So what are those? Well, we've increased the frequency on the Journal Square to 33rd Street line on the weekday peak, reducing the headways from 5 minutes to 4 minutes. We've increased capacity on the Newark to World Trade Center line, increasing the number of 9-car trains during the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. from 8 to 13 9-car trains. And then we've done additional weekend service between Hoboken and 33rd Street to supplement the extended headways on Journal Square to 33rd Street via the Hoboken line due to critical track stabilization work. PATH is continuing to evaluate further service enhancements, particularly on the weekends, and is working to balance those with the needs for the maintenance and required regulatory inspections for the system. PATH will also be implementing an enhanced communication system to riders regarding those service schedules that may be impacted by the continued required maintenance and important maintenance we're doing through the PATH, the Path Forward program, and those required inspections. So we are currently recommending that the board approve the proposed 2025 budget as presented, but we recognize that PATH is evaluating those further service enhancements. We also received 803 comments that requested that we prioritize the investment to extend the PATH system to Newark Liberty International Airport. Staff has reviewed that. The Path to Newark program was deferred for consideration in the next capital plan. In the interim, the agency has made and is making investments to enhance the customer experience of travelers using mass transit to access Newark Airport. Those include the investment in the Newark NEC station to provide access at the station to the neighborhoods from the Northeast Corridor commuter rail station to the neighborhoods in around Newark and Elizabeth neighborhoods that are there. This will allow them to access the Newark Airport as well as all the way through to the city more conveniently. We're also, as I mentioned, replacing the air train at Newark with a wholly new air train. We received 470 comments requesting that we make the express bus lane at leading into the Lincoln Tunnel a 24/7 express bus lane. We reviewed that. The Lincoln Tunnel has that lane now from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. on weekdays, aligning with the peak commuter bus activity. The bus volumes currently do not, during other times of the day, do not support the expansion of a dedicated exclusive counterflow bus lane. So we recommend no adjustment to the budget on that matter. And then finally, we had 11 comments that were in opposition of the scheduled automatic inflation-based path fare adjustment. As we mentioned, that adjustment was approved by the board in 2019. Path single ride fare has not changed since 2014. And the incremental revenue is necessary to support PATH's extremely high maintenance costs as well as its necessary investment in the Path Forward program. And their costs are growing at a rate higher than inflation. So again, we recommend no adjustment with respect to that, the automatic inflation adjustment. And then there were some miscellaneous adjustment or comments that we reported to you and also referred to the appropriate departments. So today we are requesting that the board approve the $9.4 billion 2025 budget as proposed and presented to the board on November 14th in light of the comments received. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Libby. Any comments or questions? I know we've been going back and forth the last few months on the budget. Vice Chair?
Once again, a prodigious amount of work by you and your team. I want to thank you. There are a lot of moving pieces here, and it's just extraordinary what you brought, so thank you.
Thank you. It was a team effort across the agency, so thank you.
Thank you, Libby. We're going to defer voting on this until after the speaker's program.
Thank you.
Moving along, First Deputy of Aviation, Sarah McKean, will review two matters today for the board's consideration, covering three major commercial airports. The first concerns revisions to the airport minimum wage. The second concerns a revised revision to our airport's pricing. The proposed amendments to the policies were posted for public comment for a 30-day period, which concluded yesterday. At our November meeting, I announced the final determination on these issues will be considered today. Welcome, Sarah.
Okay. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Executive Director Cotton, and members of the board. I'm here to provide you with an overview of the proposals that I went through in November to modify the airport worker minimum wage and airport street pricing plus policies for JFK, Newark, and LaGuardia airports. Just to recollect, the Port Authority did post the proposed rules related to airport minimum wage and the street pricing policies on November 12th. They were posted and announced in a press release and posted on the Port Authority's website for a 30-day comment period. These proposals were then presented to the board at our November 14th board meeting. As of December 11th, we have received a total of 1,049 comments on both policies, and over the next slides, I will provide a summary of comments received and the Port Authority's response to these comments. So just as a refresher related to airport minimum wage, the airports rely on employees to learn the layout, follow safety and security procedures, and distinguish normal activity from behavior that is out of place throughout the airports. As a result, the Port Authority has an interest in ensuring that airport employees are well trained and that understand how the airport is laid out, and we find that there is a benefit to having these employees be longer tenured. With that understanding, in 2018, the Port Authority did amend its minimum wage policy to increase the minimum wage to $19 an hour. And if this threshold were to remain stagnant, airport employers would not remain competitive with the New York and New Jersey state mandated minimum wages. Therefore, to assure a steady workforce of airport employees that are capable of responding to airport emergencies because of their long tenure and extensive training, the Port Authority has proposed the following changes to the airport worker minimum wage policy. One, to increase the current minimum wage from $19 an hour in 3 increments during the next year to be $21.25 an hour by January 1st, 2026. Transition to an annual increase based on CPI beginning in 2027, which follows the practice of both states, and increase the minimum wage to $25 an hour by September 1st of 2032 if the hourly minimum wage following the annual CPI adjustment remains below $25 an hour on January 1st, 2032. As of yesterday, we received over 1,000 comments in support of the airport minimum wage policy amendment. A majority of the comments were received, or many of the comments were received from airport employees who did note that they were happy with the proposal, however, expressed some dissatisfaction, stating that the amount of the increase was not high enough. We did receive one comment in opposition to the proposed policy. It came from an airline trade association that represents airlines within the United States. That commenter expected the increase to cost the airlines more money and could make Port Authority airports less competitive. They also asserted that the airport minimum wage should not exceed the state minimum wage policy. The Port Authority also received 3 requests for additional information, 2 of which were related to the Healthy Terminals Act, and those were both referred to the state policy. The 3rd comment that was received requested information about when the CPI annual adjustments would be announced by the Port Authority. Because of that comment, the staff have revised the proposed rule to include notification to be made via the Port Authority website as of October 30th of the preceding year before an increase goes into effect. So in response to the comments that were made, we just want to reiterate that the revised policy is expected to continue to attract more highly qualified employees and reduce turnover, leading to higher safety, security, and operational standards that will be to the benefit of the users of the Port Authority's airports. The proposed policy is also generally structured to align with the wage policies for New York and New Jersey and will be adjusted annually based on consumer price indexes. It is not recommended that this proposal be postponed because of the higher employee retention, which necessitates the proposed differential in rates. In consideration of all of the comments received and the information that was done to build this proposal out, staff recommends that the board approve this proposed policy without change. Next, I'll talk about the airport street pricing policy. Again, as a reminder, the Port Authority understands that the amendment of our minimum wage policy is not without consequence to airport concessionaires, which are bound by airport street pricing regulations. The Port Authority's street pricing requirements seek to prevent businesses operating in the airport terminals from charging passengers excessive prices for the same items that can be found in the market outside of the airports. On-airport operators generally experience increased operating costs in comparison to off-airport vendors, and these costs are unique to the airport environment and are attributed to additional security requirements, training, logistics, and the higher cost of construction. So finally, the Port Authority does seek to ensure that our airports remain as desirable business locations. In recognition of this, the Port Authority had called upon the rules and regulations to be amended as follows: to modify the street pricing policy to adjust the ceiling for concessionaires and retailers from a street pricing plus 10% policy to a street pricing plus 15% policy. In addition, the modified amendment would permit an employee benefit and retention surcharge of up to 3% that is not included in the street pricing calculation. So as of yesterday, a total of 18 comments were received related to the airport street pricing proposed amendments. 14 of these were from airport concessionaires, including ACDBE and MWBE certified firms, and they were in support of the proposed amendment. These comments stated that the policy changes will allow businesses to recover costs necessary for operating at the airport and meet the requirements of the traveling public. The 4 remaining commenters opposed the proposed amendment, questioning the current enforcement of the policy and asserting that increased pricing will deter people from purchasing goods on the airport. The Port Authority street pricing policy review process is extensive and requires oversight from multiple parties, including airport staff, terminal operators, concession managers, and third-party consultants. Pricing discrepancies that are determined based on these reviews are required to be addressed by concessionaires within 48 hours. This policy and process will remain unchanged with the proposed and updated policy. Further, the policy will continue to require that food and beverage concessionaires provide value for money options at their airport locations. Considering the comments received and in recognition of the increased cost of doing business at the airports, staff recommend that the board approve the policy changes that were presented last month without change. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any comments or questions for Sarah on either one of those 2 issues? Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. We're going to defer that until we hear from the public. Now we have an opportunity to hear from the members of the public to comment on Port Authority matters. This public period, which will be limited to 30 minutes or so, which probably actually go beyond that. We have 23 folks who have signed up. And it provides an opportunity for members of the public to present their views directly to the board, but it's not going to be a dialogue back and forth. Members of the public wishing to discuss a specific item, please contact our Press and Public Affairs Department, and we'll be more than happy to steer them in the right direction for any specific requests. The first one we're here is Mayor Ravi Bala. Mayor, how you doing?
Chairman, Vice Chair, Commissioners, it's an honor to be here before you to present a few remarks. First thing I want to say is this is probably the most harmonious governing body that I have witnessed. It's just culture shock coming from Hoboken, and
You've seen a few, right? You've been through a few wars, Ravi.
So, Chairman, if you ever want to run for the council in Hoboken,
I'm never running again for any office, Ravi.
because you're running a type shit. It must be a magnificent leader.
Thank you.
So, as you do know, Hoboken has the highest percentage of residents that utilize public transportation in the United States. So in the entire country, we are the mass transit city of America. We have the highest percentage of residents utilizing mass transit in the whole country, including the PATH train on weekdays, and an equally high number of residents visiting and traveling to and from New York City for pleasure on the weekends. So simply put, the PATH train is the lifeblood of our city. We saw the devastating effects when the PATH was out of service following Superstorm Sandy for months, and the consequences it had for businesses and residents alike. So first, I just want to commend the board for taking a real hard look at the PATH infrastructure and making major investments in our infrastructure, be it track stations and within the trains themselves. I'll just point to one, the Path Forward initiative, a $430 billion investment into improving reliability in our system. So thank you for that. That said, I'm here today to support the dedicated work of Hudson County Complete Streets, which includes our local chapter, Bike Hoboken, and their continued advocacy for more frequent PATH service. And I say this particularly during off-peak hours as well as on weekends and late nights. I hear as mayor a lot of feedback from residents, visitors, and those who work in non-traditional, meaning non-9 to 5 hours, off-peak hours, especially people who are in the service industry. And these folks, they depend on PATH trains in late hours to run on a regular and consistent schedule. Unfortunately, they're often forced to wait up to 20 to 40 minutes between trains on the platform. So I would urge and implore that off-peak hour service or greater frequent off-peak hour service is desperately needed in cities like Hoboken. And I would implore respectfully that the board to integrate into its long-term planning after these multi-million-dollar investments to make off-peak frequency a major priority for the Port Authority. I feel like if the MTA can pull together its own goal of having train frequencies of 8 minutes during off-peak hours, we can aspire to do just as well on this side of the river. That's the main thing I want to say. While I'm actually here, before you, I would just offer a very brief comment. My feeling is that, we can do better in terms of information exchange and conversations. As mayor, and I'm sure other cities across the northern area, whether it's Jersey City, Harrison, Elizabeth, we have projects in the pipeline in redevelopment zones where there are going to be population increases in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. And information exchange, dialogue, conversation between local mayors about pressures that might be in the pipeline on the path would be beneficial, I think, to both the municipalities and our residents, as well as the Port Authority, so they know what to expect in years to come. So even something like a committee of mayors from cities like Elizabeth, Harrison, Jersey City, Newark, Hoboken, so that we can provide information about projects in our cities, population increases, and the pressures that can create on the system would hopefully enable you to plan better as well, and also look at alternative means of transportation. The path has limited capacity, so we need to also look to the ferry, NJ Transit, the bus terminal, and anything else to get people from one side of the river to the other. So with that, I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your continued public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Okay, let's start the clock. Tiana Jackson? Is Tiana Jackson here?
Yes, I'm sorry. Hello.
How you doing? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Commissioners of the Port Authority. My name is, it's Tiana Johnson. I work for a Compass at United Polaris Club at Newark Airport as a waitress. I have worked at the airport for 1 year. I live in Jersey City, and I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. I am proud to be a member of Unite Here Local 100. My reason for being here today is to thank the authority and governors of, I'm sorry if I say it wrong, Hacole, and Murphy for their important proposal to raise the minimum wage for airport workers, including airport lounge workers like me. The proposal will provide a much greater quality of life for me and my coworkers, making working at the airport much more viable as a long-term career. I am very happy that this proposal includes a plan to increase the minimum wage for 5 years in step of inflation. The last several years have been hard for a lot of reasons, but the fact that prices have been rising for everything has been one of the hardest. Keeping the wage tied to inflation will mean that the airport workers will have a little bit more security and to know that they are not falling behind. The Port Authority's proposal to increase the minimum wage will uplift thousands of people in all of New York and New Jersey communities that they live in. I urge you to pass this proposal. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Patrick Jean.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Commissioners of the Port Authority. My name is Patrick Jean, and I have come talk to you a few times already. In June and in November, I am a driver at LSG Sky Chef at JFK, which cater in-flight food for the airplanes, and I'm proud to be a member of United Here Local 100. I'm really pleased to see the progress that have happened over this time. Now we have on the table a proposal from the Governor Hochul and Murphy to increase the minimum wage of the airport workers. This would also protect airport workers in the future by tying the minimum wage to inflation. My job at JFK support my family, including my wife, 4 children, and 2 beautiful grandkids. This proposal would make it easier for me and my coworkers to take care of ourselves and our families. The Port Authority leadership on wages have been transformative for Unite Here members at our region's airport. We thank you for your work, and we urge you to pass this proposed minimum wage increase. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brandon? How do you say your last name, Brandon?
Excuse me?
How do you say your last name?
Burston.
Burston.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Commissioners of Port Authority. My name is Brandon Burston. For 8 years, I've worked in sanitation and utilities for OTG at LaGuardia Airport. We feed the people in the airport as they prepare to fly and make sure they have good and safe food, as well as, of course, safe travels. I'm also a member of Unite Here Local 100, and I live in Queens, New York. I'm sure you know that airport workers like myself work incredibly hard, but nonetheless, we do struggle. Even though I work full-time, long hours, it is tough to live in an expensive place like New York. I am paying $2,000 a month for rent. My fiance works as a home care attendant, and it takes both of our paychecks to pay the rent and other bills. I have Medicaid for my health care. If I didn't have the low-cost health care, I'd have to go without other necessities. The proposal to increase minimum wage at our airports would be life-changing for workers like myself. I think that we need and deserve more money. The fact that the proposal ties the minimum wage to inflation means that our wages will go up with when prices do too. That means more security for me and my loved ones for the next 5 years. So I urge the Port Authority to pass this proposal. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much. Desiree Stewart? Desiree here? Righty. William Healy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you again. Thank you for joining us last week. It was a wonderful program with your executive management team. Bill Healy, I'm here to represent our President Jerry Keenan from the New Jersey Alliance for Action. I think the commissioners know the mission of the Alliance for Action, but I won't belabor that. But I will say proudly, we've been at now officially for 50 years supporting environmentally friendly infrastructure. You're about to vote on plans for infrastructure that is going to benefit generations to come, even into the 22nd century. Plans to provide for greater transportation access and equity. Plans for dramatic improvements for airports and the ports that bring people and goods into the U.S. from literally every part of the earth. Plans for rehabilitation of PATH and increasing its benefits for consumers. That's how I arrived here today. Plans for continuing the rehabilitation of some of the most iconic and vital infrastructure in our nation. These projects and many others will be funded, driving the region's economic development. The budget and capital plans are responsible plans. It's even more important to continue the investment in these critical transportation systems. The Port Authority is proposing capital spending that is substantially higher than FY24, $3.6 billion. We feel this added investment is warranted. While this budget and proposed capital investment will make itself felt in both states, the benefits to New Jersey are indeed substantial. A new Terminal B for Newark Airport, a new air train, and increased access from Newark and Elizabeth as the host communities. We'll continue the reimagining of our region's busiest airport. Path improvements are also necessary as the system at various times has gone beyond its pre-pandemic ridership and will become even more vital in the years ahead. And this budget will also see the completion of the long-term Restoring the George project. and we already are seeing benefits of the present budget in the improvement of our road network in ports Newark and Elizabeth. This is vital to ensure that that port can double its capacity by 2050. Congrats on what you've accomplished in 2024. We're here to fully support what you plan for 2025. One final note about the chairman. You were a great consensus builder in our legislature for 25 years. The unanimous support of your fellow commissioners does not surprise me in the least. Thank you very much.
William, thank you very much. Tell Jerry we wish him well. Did you get the short straw? That's why you had to come out here today? What happened?
Well-deserved vacation.
All right. Tell him our regards. We love going to his program. Thank you. John Taranu? John?
Hi. Thank you, Chairman O'Toole and commissioners, for the opportunity to speak, and for the open and democratic public input process for the Port Authority's 2025 budget. My name is John Taranu, and I'm an organizer with Hudson County Complete Streets. I live in Jersey City, right on top of Grove Path Station. The path is important to me and my family, and it's a key reason that we live here in the first place. And that's why I joined an entire group of advocates to work towards a better path. I went to my first Port Authority board meeting earlier this summer. I saw that nobody was speaking up for the path. And I was even quoted in the paper, kind of pretty much for showing up. Now, fast forward 6 months, and you may be wondering, where did all these people come from talking about the path all of a sudden? Nobody came out in previous years, and all of a sudden there's thousands of letters coming in, record-breaking numbers we've seen. Dozens of people are showing up at the public input meetings. The press is writing all about the issue, and now our elected representatives are speaking out too. Mayor Bala, Mayor Fulop, Representative Menendez. What they all feel are the key gaps in path service. The waits between trains of 20 to 40 minutes on the weekends, on weeknights, in the middle of a workday, the overcrowding on the weekends, the missing gap to the airport that turns a 30-minute trip into a 90-minute ordeal. These gaps really strike a chord with people. So that's why we're organizing around this issue. So the question, who are these people? I would like to present to you, for the record, over 2,000 people who are calling for improvements to the path. The first is a list of 1,210 signatures from a petition drive organized by a path rider, Carol Chen. She spoke at one of the meetings last week. She wasn't able to make it here in person today, so I'm depositing these on her behalf. The second is a list of over 650 people who wrote in letters in the past 2 weeks alone directly to the commissioners, you might have noticed them in your inboxes, sorry, and elected representatives through Hudson County Complete Streets. And the third is over 150 signatures from canvassing at path stations just this week in only 4 hours of canvassing. We really struck a chord. And now look, I want to be clear. We like the path. It serves a vital need in the region. It's clean, it's safe. The Port Authority has made key investments to make it better. New trains, digital payments, critical maintenance. The path staff here work really hard under complex constraints to run the system. At the same time, we need the path to be better, including 5-minute service off-peak and an extension to Newark Airport. It benefits the entire region economy, our environment, it would reduce traffic congestion, connect underserved communities, help hardworking people in Jersey City, in Newark, in New York City and beyond, and it helps the Port Authority to meet your targets. Thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you in the years ahead.
Thanks, John. David Udell? David? No David. Simran Krompatsky? I murdered that one. Okay. Murray? Is Murray Bowden here? No Murray? Okay. Deborah? I see Deborah.
And I brought someone else here.
Who'd you bring?
Cousin. My cousin Ann.
She's too shy to come up here?
No, she will.
All right.
She's supposed to speak
Yeah,
after. But
she could follow you, absolutely.
Come on. Okay, we'll move.
Welcome back, Ann.
I'll move my new walker away.
Great. How we doing, Deborah?
I'm doing very well. I have messages from Christopher and Jason. They're watching you right now, so they said hi.
Tell
They
them we
just
said hello
finished what
back.
you say. I mean, no, they'll hear you. First of all, as everyone knows, I'm Deborah Greif, and I have been testifying, and to the gentleman before, Yes, I live in Brooklyn, New York, but everybody here, every commissioner knows I've always brought up about I want the PATH train to be more accessible. I've been advocating for the reduced fare. Thank you very much. Commissioner Barber, I know you were very happy that I was there with the statements I made. I know you were. I was very happy. I also want to give you, say something else that's great. When I get on and off, I love it. It's level. With this walker, you know how it feels that I don't have to worry about falling down. Because people don't realize, people who use wheelchairs or walkers or even canes, for me to be able to smoothly get across is a very nice feeling. It's less painful. Thank you. Yes, I would love to see the PATH trains extended more. I understand its budget. I also hope, I'm not sure if 14th Street as well as 23rd can be more, and Christopher Street possibly. Yes, Christopher, because it's named after my kid. But I would love to see that accessible too, because we do have a lot of people with disabilities who live in the village and other parts, and we'd love to go. See, for me to get on from New York side, I either go to the World Trade Center or 33rd Hoboken. But I also want to thank you that you are going to be doing reduced fare. It is really important, and yes, we did volunteer, Christopher and I, and even my cousin Ann, has agreed that if you need testers from the New York City end, we agree. We've done it already. We are doing it right now. We both test for the reduced fare as well as seniors for the Omni card. And since we both also use Accessoroid in New York City, we are testing the cards. Most of the times it works for the Accessoroid, but sometimes they have little glitches. But the point is we've agreed to test and we keep letting them know how well it's working. Please also, when you finish at Kennedy Airport, can we have a lot more Accessoroid stops at the different terminals? Because when we come in, many of us want to travel, and I'm talking about my friends who use Accessoroid and like to use the airplane. They have to fight with the yellow taxis just to get them off. And it is frustrating, and honestly, it is scary. I've had issues where I almost was run down at Grand Central because the Accessoroid's trying to take me off, and this yellow car started, and it was a taxi truck, started coming at me. And I was pissed beyond belief and nervous, but I screamed at the driver to the point where he stopped. And then I walked right up to him and said, "How dare you ever do that to me again?" So I thank you much. And now my cousin Ann wants to make.
Thank you. Yes.
Very few. I promise it's
Thanks,
very
Deborah.
few. Go
Ann.
ahead.
Hi, Commissioner and staff. I want to thank you very much for your warm wishes. And I also want to thank you for the
reduced fare for Omni for the PATH.
Reduced Omni for the PATH. And I want to wish everybody a happy and a healthy new year and a happy holiday.
Thank you very much.
She
Same
made
to
it
you.
through
Thank
two
you
heart
very much.
surgery. That's what
Thank
she
you.
wanted to thank you.
Good to see you again, Ann. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Josephine Bentley. Josephine. Anya Cohen Wade.
Hi, my name is R.E.A. Cohen-Wade. Thank you for the chance to speak. I am a Jersey City resident of 5 years. I don't belong to any organized group. I just saw posted online that they were looking for people to comment today, and I am on vacation this week, so I figured I would do my civic duty because I didn't have anything to do, anything else to do right now. So I agree with many of the comments about the path. It's not merely a commuter rail. People use it to go into New York City on off hours, and that can be very difficult sometimes. The weekend and late hour diversion stop to Hoboken for the 33rd Street lines. I've heard that was implemented after Hurricane Sandy, and still is still in operation 12 years after that storm. Next year will be 13, so that's the bar mitzvah year. I think we can maybe fix by then. And the last thing I would like to ask to be improved about the path service are the bathrooms at the Oculus, especially the ones that are within the special path area. The hours I think they close at 7 p.m. on weekdays and 4 p.m. on weekends. You can imagine someone coming into New York from Jersey City and going back home after 4 p.m. on Saturday or Sunday might need to use the bathroom. And closing at 4 p.m. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Eric Allen Connor.
Thank you. My name is Eric Connor. I've long relied on PATH for my daily commute, for outings into the city with my family, and as the last leg of my journey home after a long work trip. I recognize that, as commissioners, it is your duty to ensure the long-term success and financial sustainability of the Port Authority in supporting our region's economic well-being. And I know that you view the ports, airports, bridges, and tunnels as the assets whose revenues have sustained the Port Authority for over 100 years. From your perspective, the PATH probably looks like a liability, a money pit, a $100 million weight around the agency's neck pulling down the bottom line. But I think that's the wrong way to think about it. The PATH is an invaluable resource, and it is an integral part of the Port Authority whose mission is to keep the region moving. The PATH is a through line of the region's economic prosperity. Midtown and the financial district rely on tens of thousands of daily commuters from New Jersey. The creation of Wall Street West by Newport and Exchange Place is possible only because of the PATH. The renaissance of Grove Street and Journal Square is because of the PATH. The new developments at Harrison are because of the PATH. New Jersey is growing, investing in housing, and building new businesses because of the PATH. The Little Railroad is the lifeblood of the region, carries more people where they want to go than New Jersey Transit or the Holland Tunnel. It deserves a much larger share of your attention and the Port Authority's budget. Our ask is simple. To help sustain our region's economic growth, we need more frequent off-peak and weekend service. No one should have to wait 20, 40, or 60 minutes for a train. Workers whose companies have offices on both sides of the Hudson should be able to shuttle between locations knowing that the next train to World Trade Center will depart in 5 to 10 minutes, regardless of the hour. Families with small children or elderly parents or a disabled family member shouldn't have to be tumbling down the stairs at Grove Street trying to make only one of 3 weekend trains an hour into the city. Travelers from Manhattan and Hudson County deserve a one-seat ride to Newark Airport to help reduce the crush of car congestion on our crowded streets versus another $3.4 billion AirTrain investment. The New York, Jersey City, and Newark Metropolitan Statistical Area is the wealthiest, most economically productive region in the country. And it needs PATH to be a world-class subway system that is capable of more than stunted, subpar service. Please, please fund higher train frequencies and restore the expansion to Newark Airport in your capital budget. And while I applaud you all on your good consensus and unanimity, debate is a good thing. You know, the next time you have a meeting, debate these issues, bring it up, and think about the perspectives of the users who rely on PATH to get around. Thank you all.
Mike Manzella, please. Mike.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Mike Manzella, and I humbly serve as the Director of Transportation for the City of Jersey City. This statement is being submitted on behalf of the city and Mayor Steve Phillip. Jersey City is one of the most transit-rich cities in the country, with almost half of our population of 300,000 residents commuting to work using public transit. The city has made a strong commitment to improving the quality of life for residents and visitors by creating safer streets, expanding public transit, and fostering a more connected and sustainable urban environment. During Mayor Phillip's administration, the city has invested significantly in transit infrastructure, including the introduction of bike share, expanded ferry services, and an on-demand microtransit service called Via JC, which supplements New Jersey Transit and PATH services. Yet, despite our efforts, the Port Authority has consistently failed to match this commitment with meaningful action. PATH service, which remains under the Port Authority's control, has been increasingly inadequate in the face of Jersey City's growth. Service levels have reduced significantly, even as the region's population and ridership demand have soared. This lack of investment is not only frustrating, it is unacceptable. The Port Authority's failure to prioritize the needs of commuters in Jersey City is glaring. As our city continues to grow, PATH service has deteriorated. Weekend and midday headways of 20 minutes to upwards of 40 minutes between Journal Square and World Trade Center are entirely unacceptable for a rapid transit line that connects the region's 3 largest cities, especially when weekend ridership has exceeded pre-pandemic levels by 15%. Similarly, the recent reduction of weekend service on the General Square to 33rd Street line to 20-minute intervals has further compounded frustrations for Jersey City residents. These service levels fail to meet the needs of our community and are a disservice to commuters, residents, and visitors alike. The Port Authority must recognize that PATH is no longer just a commuter rail. It is a vital piece of regional rapid transit that must evolve to support the region's growing economy and urban population. This requires a firm commitment in the upcoming budgets to increase service during off-peak hours and weekends, ensuring the system is accessible and reliable for all residents, not just for weekday commuters. It is impossible to justify the Port Authority's continued failure to provide adequate service, especially on lines that are not undergoing any construction or maintenance at the time. While we acknowledge the ongoing path forward investments, and thank you for them, such as new trains, upgraded tracks, and station renovations, these improvements cannot be used to justify service cuts. We need not only infrastructure upgrades, but also a clear commitment to enhancing service to meet the growing needs of our region. The need for transformative capital projects is urgent. Jersey City residents have been waiting for years for the promised path extension to Newark Airport, an essential project that would provide a fast, affordable, and one-seat ride for travelers and airport workers. This project, initially included in the 2017 budget, has been repeatedly deferred, eroding the public's trust in the Port Authority's ability to deliver on its promises. Jersey City, along with the rest of the region, deserves world-class public transportation that reflects our shared goals of economic growth, environmental sustainability, and equity. The Port Authority must stop failing our residents, workers, and visitors by continuing to neglect past potential. Mayor Phillip and the City of Jersey City urge the Port Authority to significantly increase the past budget and deliver the modern transit system that we all deserve. Thank you.
Sophia Davy-Dova. Sophia. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I appreciate the chance to speak with you today regarding a pressing issue affecting thousands of PATH riders every day, the inadequate service during off-peak hours. These long waits and infrequent trains don't just inconvenience riders, they create unsafe, overcrowded conditions. When trains are so packed that passengers can barely move, we're treating people like freight, not human beings. And in an emergency, how can passengers get out of harm's way when there's simply no room to maneuver? Passengers who need seats can't get seats. Individuals are jammed into each other's personal space, and this environment encourages arguments, harassment, and rampant germ transmission since everyone is forced to breathe air mere millimeters from each other's faces. Depending on the circumstances, the prolonged gaps between trains mean packed conditions can rival what we see during the busiest rush hours. This problem is exacerbated by the region's growing population, especially in Jersey City, Harrison, and Newark, and I'm sure will be exacerbated further by congestion pricing and more return to work mandates. More riders depend on the path at all hours, and unlike rush hours, non-folding bicycles and scooters are permitted in train cars during off-peak times, and bulky lithium-powered bikes with delivery boxes block doorways. The absence of visible safety enforcement only deepens the sense that rider welfare isn't being taken seriously. And while I have read on the site that only 2 full-size bikes are allowed per car, I've counted up to 5. Increasing service at all hours isn't just a matter of comfort and convenience. It's about preventing tragedies. Increasing off-peak service would reduce crowding, increase ridership, and ensure that everyone can arrive at their destination safely. I hope that the next time I have an opportunity to speak with you, it'll be to say thank you for taking these concerns seriously. And just want to throw in, please stop routing weekend and night trains through Hoboken and allow direct service for like you do in the rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Noli. Samantha here? Okay. West Honeycutt.
Hello, Chairman, members of the board. My name is West Honeycutt, and I'm a citizen, resident of Jersey City. I want to thank you all for your public service and your roles in all the good news and reports that we heard earlier today. I also, even though the 4 that were honored have already left, I want to offer my thanks to the men and women who keep all of us safe on Port Authority property. I'll admit to you all that I always feel much safer on the path than I do riding the subway by a long shot. And I'm proud of the tap to pay system so that when we frequently host friends and family, they can just tap and hop right on. But I must confess to you all that we just about don't take them on the path anymore. It's kind of a buzzkill when we have folks who pay all that money to fly into the Port Authority's wonderful airports from out of town, take them into the big city, and then we got to wait up to 40 minutes each way sometimes. Speaking of buzzkills, I'm also embarrassed of not being able to take the same PATH train all the way to that shiny new terminal at Newark Airport that I think we're all so rightly proud of. When I come home from DC from work trips and I take Amtrak, I walk right off and I hop on the PATH, and no better feeling in the world than beating all those folks who are on the road and just taking the train all the way home. Newark Airport really deserves that as well. You all have a hard job, and I know it's not easy, but I'm here to implore you that it's time to find a stronger pathway forward for the PATH. I'm not with these groups. Nobody's giving me talking points. I've been in the back trying to get ChatGPT to tell me what I might say. I'm losing my voice a little bit today. And I've lost my place in what ChatGPT gave me. When you walk outside, you can see all of the new towers going up. And when you read online, you can see that many more have been approved. The population is growing. And the trains are already dangerously overcrowded on weekends. While I may have less fear of crime on the path, y'all, I gotta say, I'm actually very afraid of the crowd sizes that we've encountered. We've gone to actually ride the path, break our rule, and ride it on a weekend with the 20 to 40-minute ride times, and it's too crowded. We can't get on. We have to walk away. Sometimes the ferry's there. Sometimes it's expensive Uber. This is one of the wealthiest metro areas in the entire world, one of the most powerful global financial centers, and one of the most influential cultural centers. If I were in your shoes serving on this board, I'd feel pretty proud. But be honest with me, with the way the PATH train frequencies are running, serving on this board has kind of got to feel like being given a Ferrari that you can't take out of first gear. When I heard that hardly ever anyone comes to offer public comments, and that no one's sending you comments online, it felt paramount to me to walk over here, no voice and all, and let you know that two things can be true at once. There's a lot that the Port Authority is doing that is going right, but the PATH system needs you to take that Ferrari out of first gear. Let's goose the gas pedal a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. Musab Ali.
Thank you, Commissioner, Chairman, for having me. Today, I want to stand first in solidarity with the members of 32BJ and Unite Here on behalf of their contract, and thank you for your leadership in raising their minimum wage to $25 an hour by 2032. It's a victory for many hardworking people who keep our region running. I'm also here on behalf of Hudson County Complete Streets and advocate on behalf of the PATH train. And I think especially as we think about the fare increase of 12% to the PATH train, we cannot ask riders to pay more for worse service. The increase is also disproportionately going to impact low-income riders, and those are the very same people who need more stable, reliable public transportation. And so I want to talk about three things. The first thing is the increase of off-peak service. There are many times that I ride the PATH train, especially when I'm in the World Trade Center, where sometimes I see people having to pick between either squeezing onto a PATH train like sardines or wait another 20 to 40 minutes for another train just to go through the same cycle over and over again. If the PATH train can run at 2 minutes during the day and during peak hours, it should be able to run on 5 minutes during off-peak hours. The second thing is about expanding the PATH train to Newark Airport. I think many of the speakers have mentioned, we're all so proud of Newark Airport and all the awards that were mentioned that it's won, but I think it's vital that we provide access for people to the PATH train. Currently, the system is just 3 miles short of EWR, and a direct connection could eliminate time-consuming transfers, benefit travelers, citizens, as well as the thousands of airport workers we have that we rely on every single day. The third thing is I want to talk about prioritizing the Marin PATH station. I know it's a project that was once spoken about, but the west side of Jersey City is something that's growing rapidly, but its transit infrastructure hasn't kept pace. Opening that Marin PATH station could unlock opportunities for jobs, healthcare, and education while reducing congestion in a very vital part of Jersey City. It's an investment in equity and mobility and the future of our region. The PATH system is not just about transportation, it's about connection, opportunity, and justice. By increasing off-path service, expanding the network, and prioritizing underserved areas, we can make the path safer, more reliable, and more equitable for all. These are investments our riders, workers, and communities deserve. Let's rise to the challenge and deliver the future we all deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the live speakers, Jim? And we have two videos and one written statement.
Is Matthew Ramirez here?
Oh, yeah.
There's-
Come on up, Matthew.
No, it just say ditto.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Really quick, I just want to say the good things that you guys have done. So we love the safety, the budget that's being passed, and everything like that. I think it's great. On track to hit the 2050 Green Initiative. I was like, way to go. Keep it up. But for the most part, it's just the frequency of PATH trains that are coming in. There have been times where after it's midday in the city, we're coming back, my roommate and I, and we get down to the PATH train because we see that it's leaving in 5 minutes and it's completely packed. So we have to make that decision of either squeezing on, forcing our way on to make an uncomfortable situation, or waiting for the train. So then we wait another 20 to 40 minutes for the train. It's also frequency, and then, I do enjoy that you guys are receptive to expanding the train to Newark Airport as well. And then also for the first time, hearing the Marin station opening up, I think is, fantastic idea. I mean, just, things to think about. All right, that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else, Jim? Live? Okay, we have one written from Lucas Theodore, which will be read into the record.
Yes.
And then we have two videos. Winnie Fred Victor Hines. Do we have that video?
Good afternoon. I'm Winifred Victor Hines, a resident of the South Ward of Newark, a member of the City of Newark Environmental Commission, and Executive Director of the Wequahic Park Association. I'm reaching out to you, Port Authority board members, to take the next steps in transforming our region's transportation by taking action and vote for this crucial campaign to improve the PATH system. In recent years, the Port Authority has made commendable progress. New trains, critical maintenance, and digital payment systems have improved the PATH. But despite ridership returning to pre-pandemic levels, the system is still falling short of our region's needs. Our community is speaking loud and clear. 1,800 signatures and 600 letters written show just how much this matters to us. Together, we're asking the Port Authority to deliver on two key improvements to address these gaps. One, frequent off-peak service. Right now, the PATH runs every 20 to 40 minutes on weekends, weeknights, and midday. This creates dangerous overcrowding, missed connections, and long delays for riders. The solution is simple. Run the PATH every 5 minutes off-peak. This would make a world of difference for our lives and schedules. If the system can handle 2-minute intervals during rush hour, 5-minute intervals are feasible and necessary for safety. 2, a PATH extension to Newark Airport. The current setup forces riders to transfer to New Jersey Transit and the air train to reach the airport, which is inconvenient and costly. Instead of a $3.5 billion over budget air train, let's extend the PATH directly to Newark Airport. A one-seat ride would mean faster, more affordable transit for travelers, airport workers, and Newark residents, while reducing traffic congestion and pollution around the airport. This would be a game changer. South Newark residents would have an easy direct ride to Lower Manhattan and Jersey City, and airport workers would finally have a reliable way to get to their jobs. This isn't just about convenience, it's about equity and opportunity. Improving the PATH would make commuting safer, faster, and better for all of us. We're also asking the Port Authority to extend the Lincoln Tunnel Express bus lanes to 24/7 operation and to develop transit alternatives to address congestion pricing. These improvements are essential to meet the needs of our growing region and reduce our dependence on cars. Please vote to support this campaign. You have the power to make this a reality. Let's keep building momentum for a PATH system that works for everyone. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
All right, Jim, the last video from Maddie Bucky's Highland.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matty W. Bucky's Highland. For today, I'm going to speak about the Port Authority's 2025 budget in relation to that. You guys are proposing a toll by mail increase by $22.38. That's one of the largest toll increase I've seen when it was approved to $8 to $15 in August of 2011. So I think we should trim back the toll by mail rate a little bit. Other than that, I think it's all great that we're doing good on accessibility. And to Commissioners Bolwage, Eve, Fine, Fisher, Kelly, LaBarbera, Linford, McCabe, O'Toole, Richardson, Rosado. I hope you and also to Executive Director Rick Connon, please happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year. I look forward to a great 2025. Back over to Chairman Kevin J. O'Toole.
We love Matt. He's the best. He's the best. We'll now proceed with voting items. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide. I don't think we would get all those committee names, just so you know. Provide a brief report on the matters being considered. First, Commissioner LaBarbera, to start the proceedings as chair of the Committee on Finance, and then we'll conclude with my report on behalf of the Committee on Operations. Commissioner LaBarbera.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As chair of the Committee on Finance, I will now recommend an item that authorizes the 2025 budget consistent with the parameters described by the Chief Financial Officer during her presentation on the budget 2025. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask that the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals on this matter.
There are none.
Okay. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
I now request a second.
Second.
Okay. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. Next, I wish to recommend to the Board for consideration several items necessary to accommodate the Port Authority's financing plans for 2025. The first two items authorize the establishment, issuance, and sale of consolidated bonds as necessary to effectuate 2025 financing needs. Prior to making a motion on these items, I would ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are none.
I now request a motion on these items.
So moved.
Can I have a second on the motion? Second. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on these items.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
As the votes are in order, the items are approved. This next item will authorize the establishment, issuance, and sale of consolidated notes as necessary to effectuate the Port Authority's 2025 financing needs. Prior to making a motion on these items, I would ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are none.
I now request a motion on these items.
So moved.
Can I have a second on the motion? Second. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on these items.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
As the votes are in order, the items are approved. The next item I wish to present to the Board for consideration, the revised toll schedule for vehicular interstate crossings. This recommendation was presented to the Board in November, and we have had since solicited comments from the public on the final action for these proposed adjustments. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the Corporate Secretary to note any commissioner recusals on this matter.
There are none.
Do commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So moved.
Can I have a second on the motion? Second. I now request the Corporate Secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has also filed her affirmative vote.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. The last item I wish to present to the board for consideration is the final action on the revised path system reduced fare for qualifying disabled riders. This recommendation was presented to the board in November, and we've since solicited comments from the public on the final action for the proposed revision. Prior to making a motion on this item, I asked the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals on this matter.
There are none.
Do commissioners have any questions or comments on the item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
So move.
Can I have a second on the motion?
Second.
I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Now we present a resolution that would authorize the final action for the proposed amendment to our airport minimum wage as presented by our First Deputy of Aviation. Prior to making a motion, we ask any recusals.
There are none.
Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
Well, the votes are in order. This item has been approved. Next, we have a resolution that would authorize the final action on the amendment to our airport street pricing policy at JFK, Newark, and LaGuardia airports as presented by our First Deputy Director of Aviation. Do we have any recusals?
There are none.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Motion?
So move.
Second. Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
The votes are in order. The item's been approved. The next item would amend an advertising agreement with the Intersection Media covering and advertising assets at path stations and trains in order to adjust the calculations of the minimum annual guarantee payments, which will remain in place until annual path ridership exceeds 90% of the annual ridership in 2019. Prior to making a motion, we ask if there's any recusals.
There are none.
All right, any questions or comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
Votes are in order. The item's been approved. The final item for today is regarding a collective bargaining agreement with Local 1413 Smart TD, which represents more than 150 PATH employees who serve principally as conductors. This agreement was ratified by the union members on November 21st, 2024. This is for a 12-month period. Any recusals?
None.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado has filed her affirmative vote.
Votes are in order. The item's been approved. Seeing no further business, have a motion, please.
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everybody have a happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah,
Happy
which is late.
holidays.
Happy Hanukkah's late, right? Isn't it?
On Christmas.
Christmas. All right, be safe, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome back. Merry Christmas to you and everyone else. Rick.